This is not good practice, but you may cross your desk sometime, and you don't want to sit there stunned as to what do I do next. What am I talking about? Look at your rows here. Everything looks fine until you get to 19. And then we jump to 23. And the boss says, give me a total of all this stuff. And there's hidden rows. What's the answer? Subtotal. I'll explain.
Fred Williams, Excel Primed. We're going to look at the subtotal function and include it here in this particular tutorial. Now, what is the subtotal function and how does it relate to the min function? Well, we'll get to that in a second. Excel subtotal function returns an aggregation of the specified values. In other words, where it's going to subtotal whatever you define. Despite its name, subtotal can perform numerous calculations such as sum, average, count, max, and min, as shown. Notice, before we get moving too deep into this is a table recognized by this table design. Sometimes I design this to be a little bit confusing. And also note that we have hidden rows. We have items visible and subtotal. That's the strength of the subtotal. As I will show you, the subtotal function can include or exclude values from hidden rows, making it particularly useful for Excel tables and filtered data. Subtotal excludes by default values in rows hidden by a filter. We're not going to discuss the filter value up in here in the ribbon. We're just going to focus on this hidden. Subtotal returns an aggregate result from a set of data, independent of the calculations performed. To prevent double counting, the subtotal function automatically ignores other subtotal formulas in references. The example illustrates how subtotal can be configured to sum, count, and average values in ranges. You see this code here, 109, 103, 101, down here. 109 means you're summing, 103 count, 101 average. And it's wrapped around and includes a range. The action of subtotal is determined by the function's num argument, which is a numeric value. As shown in the table below, there are 11 available functions, each with 2 options. Observe that these values are paired, 1, 101, 2, 102, 3, 103, and so on. This pertains to how subtotal handles rows that have been manually hidden. When function num is available between 1 and 11, subtotal includes manually hidden cells. When function num is between 101 and 111, subtotal excludes manually hidden row values. You can't just start throwing stuff together. You're going to have to look at this guide here. Subtotals always ignore cell values that have been masked by a filter. Regardless of function num, values from rows that have been filtered are never included. When displaying a total row in an Excel table, the subtotal function is utilized. Excel automatically, notice that in a table, Excel automatically inserts the subtotal function, and you can use a drop-down menu to change the action and display the maximum, minimum, or average. I didn't include down here in 28. We can go up in here into table design. You can see we have all these options, including the total row. And if I put this total row, it's going to give total. Well, you can change that up to subtotal if you want. You can remove it. I generally just ignore it. We're not into discussing table design right now. We're just looking at the subtotal. Excel uses subtotal for calculations in the total row of an Excel table. The subtotal automatically excludes rows that have been hidden by the filter controls. So the question is, when we hit this total, is this the subtotal or is this the total? We have this right here, 19 to 23. Let's do an experiment. Unhide. That's where subtotal comes in, and it's not saying subtotal. Just be careful when if somebody hands a worksheet or a workbook off to you and they didn't tell you, oh, by the way, there's a bunch of hidden rows, and you just didn't bother to look, or let's say there's 5,000 rows here, some are hidden. You may have to go up here to find and select and go to special and play around here and see. They don't show anything about hidden rows. That's the weakness here. It's just a matter of communicating with whoever you're working with. There's also this option, and then do an inspect workbook. If we check for issues, inspect document, check off here. I know, I'm going off on this tangent here. And then it says hidden names and hidden rows. Let's go inspect. You can go down here, headers, hidden. Number of hidden rows, 3. Found 3. Doesn't tell you where they are, but at least there's 3 hidden. If you're not familiar with the inspector, it's in the extended beginner tutorial. And this is formulas. The other tutorial for beginners, I talk in depth about this inspection deal. If you're not interested in that tutorial, well then turn over some rocks. For example, take a look at that inspection tool. Subtotal with outlines. Excel includes a subtotal function that automatically inserts subtotal formulas into sorted data. This feature can be located under Data, Data, Outline, Subtotal, Data, Outline, and you can see we don't have the subtotal here. It's available, probably because we're not in this table here. It's data, subtotal, maybe it's because we're already using it. But here it is. It's a standard feature. This feature can be located under data, where I just showed. Standard function number 1 to 11 are utilized in subtotal formulas, although the outline feature is a simple way to insert subtotals in a set of data. A pivot table is probably better because we are in the table. We can't do a subtotal in the table. And you can see here, we have that subtotal option. It's because it's already in place. Subtotal, subtotal. See this? 109. What are we trying to do? Kind of gave you a hint about visible and hidden. I could have put hidden. I decided to just show you visible. You're going to have to do some quick math, or you can put your row numbers in here manually. Whatever works for you. 27 minus 6 is not 18. If you look at the visible, in other words, what visible rows are, there's 18. Otherwise, there would be, what, 21? Or at least 20. Well, we know there's 3, so it's going to be 21.
Be sure to check out our extensive courses, which include Excel data and text manipulation for advanced users, beginners, intermediate. We also have this great essentials, the A to Z for advanced users, the comprehensive beginner level 1 and 2. Then we have our advanced formulas, strictly formulas, great set of courses, which we have a beginner level 1 and beginner level 2, this intermediate level, and we have this advanced level. Click on any of the links. There's a short video that explains everything about the course. Check it out.
In 796, we've already played around with this. 109, look over here, 109. 109 is sum. Why is it not showing up down here? But we're using 109 here, and it works. And we're using what here? We're using 103. It's a count. We're using a count function. If you want average, you use 101. Other than that, there's no mystery here. We're working within a table, and subtotal, I just explained the subtotal. And where does the min? I just threw this in here because we are looking for sort of the min here. This is how it works. Remember I said it's 109, and that's just going to be a sum. It's just going to be the min. It's going to sum whatever you define. So we want F7, F27. F7, F27. We're not using name ranges. Why? Well, it's a table first and foremost. And 2, this is just easier to identify. We're just adding this up. Recognize that there's going to be a difference if we're looking at the difference between the hidden. So now the next question is, well, what if we hit equals sum? Just do this, the whole thing. If you want a comparison, you can see that the sum is not aware of the hidden rows. So you use one or the other. Well, I mean, depending on what you're doing. You know that subtotal has a little bit of flexibility. And the same here. We just use 103. Now be careful. We're using count. 103 is the code in the B7. We're just grabbing, this could be any particular set of rows. We just use B because we're within the table and It's just going to count the visible. If you go out here into A, I don't know. Let's see here. If we go A, the rows are still going to be hidden. It doesn't matter what rows you're working in. Brad Williams, Excel Prime. See you soon.